So iron truly is a double-edged sword. It's essential. You absolutely need it to be at your best, but also it can be very toxic. It can destroy your cells in a very major way. So I want to take some time to explain the nuances between this, because people will mix up iron deficiency and anemia as being one and the same thing, and it's not really true. And the circumstances for men and women are very different. For women, anemia is more common and iron deficiency is more common, but iron overload and iron toxicity is even more common for men, less common in women. So I'm going to explain the nuances and the differences between the two, and then I'm going to tie everything together, and I'm going to show you an example of a diet plan that you could follow to reverse iron deficiency, reverse anemia, and also protect yourself, defend yourself against iron overload and iron toxicity. So let's start here. Anemia is very different than iron deficiency. Iron deficiency is basically where you're not taking in enough iron in general. Anemia is where you're lacking the necessary proteins needed in order to synthesize red blood cells and have adequate levels of oxygen absorption. The proteins I'm talking about are ferritin and hemoglobin. These are the key when it comes to iron. Now, you can actually be anemic and be taking in enough iron. The two are heavily correlated, but it's not always causal. In my experience, a lot of the time, the reason why women end up being anemic is because you're losing a lot more iron than you're taking in due to inflammation, and then on top of that, a menstrual cycle. And there could be things, a lot of stress and excessive protein, heme, iron, and animal product consumption, which actually leads to an excessive thickening of the uterine lining, leading to a more heavy menstrual cycle. So you end up losing a lot of iron in the process. And then there's things like a lack of magnesium, a lack of vitamin D, which also leads into a gradual form of anemia and iron deficiency. The reason why this vitamin D and magnesium is so important is because in order for the body to adequately defend against oxidation, right? Destruction of your cells, your body uses something called glutathione, which is a natural antioxidant that is produced inside the body. Now, you need magnesium and you need vitamin D in order to synthesize that glutathione. That glutathione is really important in maintaining the structure of your cells. If you run short on that glutathione, then you can have reactive oxygen species and other chemical compounds like hydroxyl that actually destroy and erode your body's ability to retain iron and then use that iron in an adequate way. When I say iron is a double-edged sword, I'm referring to iron toxicity, specifically where the iron storage depots inside your cells get eroded due to oxidative stress. As that storage breaks down, iron can then spill out into other areas of the cell, leading to the death and destruction of that cell. When I mentioned hydroxyl, what I'm referring to is the Fenton reaction. You may not know this, but hydrogen peroxide is a thing that naturally forms inside your body. Now, if iron interacts with that hydrogen peroxide, you get a byproduct called hydroxyl, which is extremely toxic to your cells. This is a major catalyst for that Fenton reaction that leads to a tremendous amount of cellular destruction. This can happen in any area in your body. It can happen in your liver, leading to potential liver damage and even liver disease due to that iron toxicity. This is just one example of how that works, but there's a lot of different mechanisms in which this takes place. The vitamin D is the substrate for that glutathione that your body can then use to protect against that toxicity. And then your body has ways of decontamination and clearing out that excess iron. So you get that whole Fenton reaction under control and bring the temperature down from that oxidative stress. Getting an adequate amount of iron in your diet is actually very easy. The thing that's most important is being able to get an adequate amount of iron while keeping the inflammation down, keeping the oxidative stress down to a sustainable and healthy level to actually reverse whatever chronic health issue or oxidative stress you're dealing with. Now, for women, your body does a better job of removing that excess iron through the menstrual cycle. However, for men, not so much. And so this can have really disastrous effects for your blood pressure, your cardiovascular health, your liver health, your kidney health, your testosterone levels, libido, etc. And of course, the iron toxicity can lead to the potential development of various types of cancer, right? So pretty serious stuff. So rather than trying to maximize for iron or trying to avoid taking in iron, you really should concentrate on getting it in the best form possible, combined with the other vitamins and minerals that really give you the full picture of what you want. The human body is very intelligently designed. Iron is very tightly regulated. You don't really absorb that much. You don't really need that much. Most people, you'll do fine with around 4 to 5 milligrams of iron per day. If you get an iron from animal products in the form of heme iron, well, you're pretty much absorbing all of it entirely. And doing that over a prolonged period of time can lead to a major iron overload. Not for everybody, but what I'm talking about is for people who are currently dealing with this issue, where heme iron could be a problem for you, especially if you have certain genetic mutations that predispose you to absorbing way too much iron. So your best bet is actually getting iron from plant-based sources, and inorganic iron that your body will then absorb and utilize to make its own heme iron and then create ferritin and hemoglobin and red blood cells and things of this nature. So we're going to dump into the diet plan. I'm actually going to show you what that looks like as far as the food choices and things like that, and why I put certain foods together and what they have to offer to get you the result that you're looking for. All right, so we here on Cronometer. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3 meals. Basically, this is a fruit-based diet. It's almost entirely fruit, right, for the majority of the plant. This is 2,076 calories, 90 grams of protein, 331 grams of carbs, and 63 grams of fat. The macros are 15% protein, 59% carbs, and 26% fat. Pretty balanced diet. And if we scroll down here, you see we pretty much hit all of our target micronutrients. All right. You may see a couple things missing here, B12 and vitamin D. That's because vitamin D is the thing that's made in the body primarily through sun exposure. And B12 is a postbiotic that's actually made by your gut bacteria. Any B12 that you get exogenously would come from some type of other sources of bacteria that make B12. There would be fresh water sources, that could be nutritional yeast or other fortified foods that contain B12 or supplementation. We're a little bit short on the calcium here at 91%, but that's for me personally, because I eat a lot more than 2,000 or 2,100 calories a day. So normally I would be able to hit my calcium, but that's good enough. And then I didn't add sodium here, so the sodium is only at 22%. No biggie. And here with the protein, for people who get a lot of questions, they ask me a lot about, hey, how do I get enough protein on a fruit-based diet? Well, this is how you do it. And you see full amino acid profile is covered here. Everything is well over 100%, even upwards of 200 and 300%. And then the zinc at 17 milligrams, 16.8. And generally speaking, men need anywhere from 10 to 13 milligrams of zinc per day. So basically, in just 2,076 calories, you're pretty much hitting everything. And even without adding in any drinks, we get 66% of our water intake for the day. So this is pretty solid here. All right. So scrolling back up with this first meal here, and we're gonna highlight this. We got 48 ounces of watermelon and 1 ounce of pumpkin seed kernels, preferably dry roasted. You'll see this is papitas, and that's because papitas is another word for pumpkin seed kernels. All right, so this is 571 calories, 17 grams of protein, 107 grams of carbs, and 16 grams of fat. This is a beautiful meal to start your day off with, especially before you go to the gym. You get well hydrated, you get all your magnesium and iron and copper and all your electrolytes, potassium, etc. in this meal. So if we scroll down, you get to see exactly what I'm talking about. Right? Vitamin C, 123% already. Copper, 104%, and then iron already at 69% in this meal. And magnesium, 70% at 292 milligrams. All right. Even here, when we look at isoleucine, leucine, and valine, we already pretty much have a little bit over 1/4 of our branched chain amino acids for the day. So that's really important for anybody trying to build muscle and reverse anemia at the same time. Join us over in the Tribe by Noir community, where we talk all things fruit, fasting, fitness, mindset, and self-development. Tribe by Noir community members get access to my high raw vegan nutrition guide, my Train Feast Fast alternate day fasting guide, my Tribe Flex, Tribe Flow, and Tribe Solid training programs for building strength and muscle, whether you're training in the gym or at home. You also get access to my mindset and self-development video series, the 3 steps to self-actualization: discover, assess, and actualize. And there's a lot more on top of that, because we have weekly group coaching calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And of course, the schedule is always subject to change if need be. So having said that, hit the link in the description of this video, and I'll see you on the other side. Now we go into our second meal here, and this is more of a meal on the low glycemic side, right? So people who are concerned with blood sugar, kiwis, blueberries, and strawberries combined with sunflower seed kernels. This is a pretty low glycemic meal, right? So generally speaking, you don't really get a crazy blood sugar rush from a meal like this, even if it's 120 grams of carbs. Now, things may play out a little bit differently for you if you are diabetic and your A1C is up like above 9, or even in the 12s or 13s, or whatever the case is, for those who are severely insulin resistant. But this is 627 calories, 13 grams of protein, 120 grams of carbs, and 18 grams of fat. For those of us on the raw vegan side and the fruit-based, plant-based community, we're real big on our carbs because we want abundance of energy. All right, you need that abundance of energy, especially if you're going to reverse anemia. So this right here is 13 grams of protein. Again, for those who think you can't get protein from fruits and things like that, look at this. Isoleucine, 42%, leucine, 28%, valine, 38% in that meal. Okay? So you're hitting those branched chain amino acids there. And now look at this. Copper, 141%, iron, 46%, vitamin C, 601%. And I'm going to keep highlighting the vitamin C, the iron, and the coppers, because you need to combine these 3 things together in order to maximize the iron absorption, adequate storage, and utilization of that iron in order to get adequate levels of ferritin and hemoglobin. So you can get some good thorough oxygen saturation, right, for a higher standard of life. Scrolling down to the final meal, and this final meal is where we start to add in some other things that aren't necessarily raw foods, or fruit for that matter. So this is a good evening meal at 878 calories, 61 grams of protein, 105 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of fat. So we got red lentils, about 4 ounces measured dry. And this red lentils, just see what I'm saying here, look at this. If we scroll down, the red lentils is 27 grams of protein in that 4 ounces, 71 grams of carbs, and 2 grams of fat. Okay, but if we scroll down here, and by the way, notable mentions, vitamin B1, that thiamine at 48%, and the folate, really important for nerve recovery and brain function, and that's at 58%. So now we scroll here, look at this, copper, 164% of our RDIs coming from the red lentils. And then the iron, 105%. All right. And if we scroll down here for the amino acids, the protein intake, look at this. Isoleucine, 87%. Leucine, 66%. Valine, 79%. For those who are concerned with muscle building. all right? And your average woman needs anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of protein in a day. And this right here with the 4 ounces of red lentils is already 27 grams. Now, this whole meal, when we put it together, is 60 grams of protein, all right? So this one meal can cover a woman's total protein needs. And a man needs anywhere from around a minimum of 60 grams of protein to upwards of like 110 or 120 even, depending on how much lean mass you have on it. So we got red lentils, we got 4 ounces of bell peppers, we've got some sliced yellow squash, 4 ounces, we got watercress, 3 ounces, we got hulled hemp seeds, 40 grams, so that's basically 4 tablespoons, 4 ounces of shiitake mushrooms. You can also use king oyster mushrooms or whatever mushrooms you want to use, baby bella. And we got kale at 3 ounces. And then we got extra firm tofu at 4 ounces. Not a whole lot. And so as we scroll down here, we start to really get a nice full nutrient profile. And look at this vitamin C at 310%. Now, most of that vitamin C is coming from the bell peppers. The bell peppers make up 179%. And then the kale at 88% and the watercress at 44%. All right, and so those bell peppers and that kale is going to really do a lot to boost the iron absorption from the lentils. Okay. And then the copper, 284%, iron, 192%. And then look at this, total day's worth of magnesium, 110% from this meal. All right, so this is a major one here, and a full amino acid profile. All right. And so following a structure like this in just 3 meals will definitely have you covered. Now, of course, you have different energy needs and things like this. So let's say if you need to consume 2,400 calories a day, you may want to add another fruit bowl meal. You want to maybe throw in some honeydew and cantaloupe mixed together. You might want to throw in some pineapple, papaya, and mango mixed together, right? And sprinkle some chia or hemp seeds in there or something like this, right? Or you may want to add a bowl of grapes. You may want to do grapes, you may want to do cherries, whatever the case is, right? So you can just add in some more fruit to your plan in order to make up the difference for however much more energy you need. I do one-on-one coaching calls and consultations all week from Monday all the way through Saturday. If you want to book a call with me, definitely hit the link in the description and pick a time and day that works best for you. And I'll talk to you soon.